Welcome to today's Deep Research Explainer. Today we're unpacking a massive, really sudden industry shift that is completely rewriting how we build and deploy automated systems. For the past couple of years, it feels like everyone has been obsessed with just one single question: who has the absolute smartest AI model? But today, we're going to look at the data and see exactly why that question is entirely outdated. The paradigm has completely shifted away from relying on the smartest model, and it's heavily moving towards strict deployment gates and what we're calling Agent Finops. Let's get into it.
All right, let's kick things off with a pretty stark headline from CIO Korea. Are we entering an era where token costs exceed human salaries? Now, I know that sounds like science fiction, but it's not a drill. It is a very real field warning. As AI moves from simple chatbots answering single prompts to autonomous agents running continuous, parallel tasks, the financial danger of unmanaged AI agents is absolutely massive. Think of it like leaving the water running in your house. If you don't control the flow, the meter just keeps spinning.
So here is our roadmap for today. We're going to breeze through 1. The new rules of agents. 2. Controlled frontier models. 3. GitHub's shift to usage billing. 4. Cost explosions and Agent Finops. And finally, 5. A brand new AI operating strategy to help you navigate all this.
Okay, jumping into section 1, the new rules of agents. We really need to move beyond this whole smartest model illusion.
We've got to shatter the illusion that AI success is simply about choosing the vendor with the smartest model. In the past, which, let's be honest, in AI terms means just a year or two ago, the competition was all about model performance benchmarks: who scored higher on coding tests, who had the best reasoning. But in the present, the core operational focus has shifted entirely to deployment gates and cost control. We are no longer managing a static software subscription, folks. We are managing highly volatile, metered infrastructure.
And to prove this isn't just some abstract theory, just look at the rapid, almost unbelievable succession of industry shocks that hit in the summer of 2026. On June 1st, GitHub shifted to usage-based billing. Boom! Just days later, on June 12th, Anthropic executed a sudden global block on their top models. And then, on June 26th, OpenAI launched their newest models not to the public, but strictly as a restricted preview. This is not an isolated incident. It's a highly coordinated, systemic shift happening across the biggest players in the space.
Which brings us to Section 2, Controlled Frontier Models. We need to start looking at models as regulated infrastructure.
Top-tier models are simply no longer standard software-as-a-service products. Take OpenAI's release of the GPT 5.6 family, specifically the Sol, Terra, and Luna models. Instead of making them widely available the second they were announced, OpenAI explicitly launched them as a restricted preview for a very small group of trusted partners. Why? Because they had to engage in government pre-consultation. Their official system card actually classified these models as having high capability in incredibly sensitive areas like cybersecurity and biological and chemical domains. So the crucial point here is that OpenAI is packaging release gates and access restrictions directly into the launch of their frontier models.
And if you think restricted previews are strict, look at the disruption over at Anthropic. On June 12th, following a U.S. government directive, Anthropic literally had to suspend access to their Fable 5 and Mythos 5 models for all international users, simply because real-time nationality verification wasn't possible. Access was revoked overnight, without any warning. When they finally redeployed on July 1st, it was with a new, highly aggressive 99% block classifier. And a week after that, they transitioned from flat-rate access right over to usage credits. Your access to a frontier model can literally vanish while you sleep.
So here is what you absolutely must take away from this. The higher the model's capability, the higher the access restrictions, the friction, and the costs. Anthropic themselves admitted that their new 99% block classifier could increase false positives even during normal, totally harmless coding and debugging tasks. Safety stacks create real daily operational friction. You are paying a lot more for a much smarter model that might just randomly refuse to do your work because it tripped a backend safety gate.
Let's move into section 3, GitHub's shift to usage billing. Welcome to the era of the metered utility.
Now, let's shift to the harsh financial reality. To anchor this whole abstract concept to real-world costs, GitHub introduced AI credits for Copilot, where one AI credit equals exactly 1 cent. Sounds cheap, right? But here's the catch. It's not just your prompts that cost money anymore. Input tokens, output tokens, and even cache tokens actively drain your budget. Every single time your AI agent reads a file, thinks about a problem, or writes a line of code, the meter is spinning.
Let's compare the old mindset with the new reality for a second. In the past subscription model, you paid an unlimited flat rate for a single user seat. It was simple, it was predictable. In the present usage model, you pay per token with very strict user budget limits. And what's vital to understand here is that when your budget is exhausted, your access is blocked. It does not automatically fall back to a cheaper model for you. If you hit your limit, your automation simply stops dead in its tracks.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, Cost Explosions and Agent Finops. Let's talk about the parallel agent reality.
This right here is where the financial damage really happens. If you compare the token consumption of a single human prompt to multiple parallel agent sessions running in isolated Git work trees, it's night and day. A human types one question and waits, but an AI agent in GitHub's new workspace, it might run a bug investigation, a new feature implementation, and a code review perfectly in parallel across different isolated work trees, while simultaneously running terminal commands and browser validations in the background. The token consumption doesn't just increase, it explodes exponentially.
And the sheer scale of this is staggering. GitHub reported over 1.4 billion monthly commits and more than 2 billion weekly GitHub Actions minutes. When you attach highly capable metered AI agents to this massive volume of background validation tasks, continuous integration, and parallel workflows, you are essentially attaching a high-speed token-burning engine directly to the core of your development pipeline. Which brings us right back to our opening hook, but now with a lot more context. CIO Korea reported a field warning that unmanaged agent costs can rise to $300 a day without preset task scopes and budget limits. Think about that for a second. $300 a day for a single unmanaged workflow. If you multiply that across an entire team of developers, your AI bill will eclipse your payroll incredibly fast.
Okay, deep breath. Section 5, New AI Operating Strategy. Let's talk about building your own governance so you can actually survive this.
So how do we actually navigate this? It is time to shift away from relying on the vendor and start building your own governance. Here is the literal playbook you need to implement right now, the 4-tier task routing strategy. Please do not send every single task to your most expensive frontier model. Step 1, route simple log scanning and document collection to a low-cost, lightning-fast model. Step 2, use a mid-cost model for structuring that data. Step 3, reserve your high-cost, high-capability frontier models strictly for complex reasoning and final code generation. And Step 4, always implement an external approval gate before anything goes live.
Furthermore, you've got to implement these technical steps into your internal control system. Establish cost centers, not just per user, but per task. You need to know exactly how much your bug-fixing agent costs versus your code review agent. Set strict user and model budget caps. And this is crucial. Design automatic downgrade paths. If a top-tier model gets blocked by a government directive or hits a budget cap, your system should automatically fall back to a cheaper, local or alternative model using a condensed prompt. Finally, always maintain local logs of your session costs so you can actually calculate your return on investment.
So if you take away just one thing from this entire explainer, make it this. Your competitive moat is no longer model ownership. It really doesn't matter who has the best model today, because access can be revoked tomorrow or costs can completely quadruple overnight. Your true competitive advantage is your internal operating asset, your routing governance, your state management, your fallback paths, and your cost controls. That is exactly what survives vendor blocks and massive price hikes.
I want to leave you with this provocative thought today to help you assess your own readiness. Is your automation relying entirely on a vendor's smartest model, just staying cheap and available forever? Or are you actively building your own intelligently routed, perfectly controlled operating system? Take a really hard look at your architecture today, folks, because, well, the meter is officially running.